So hello and welcome back to another video, guys. Now that's right, today we're doing another tier ranking. This is a pretty exciting one for me. I'm going to be doing the MCU movies. So far we've just done characters, but I wanted to show you guys that we're going to do movies as well. I'm going to do directors, pretty much anything that has a tier list. I'm going to attempt. And I thought a really good movie one to start with would be the MCU. Just because at this point there's so many films here for us to talk about now, as you can see. I've put them all in order, so we've got all of the Phase 1 films, we got Phase 2, and then Phase 3. So we pretty much just got, obviously, at this point, it's a great time to do Marvel things at the minute, because while WandaVision is airing, but that's a TV show, and of course before Black Widow comes out, we've got just the Infinity Saga at the minute. It's a perfect time to be doing Marvel things before we start going into the new phase, the new era of Marvel. We are sort of there with WandaVision, but movie-wise, not quite yet. So it's a great time to be doing it. So we got 5 categories again. Again, I want to stress this as well, because some people criticize me for like the colouring on this list and stuff, and like I'm not even sure what S means. Maybe super. I don't make these. I go online and they're made for me, and I take part in them. So yeah. Anyway, S, super, A, B, C, D. Now, when I put a film in the D category, it doesn't mean it's bad necessarily. Even though there are a couple of films here which aren't great. That's just the lowest ranked one here. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to steal this from Mr. Alex Pitt, who's just started doing the tier rankings as well. I'm also, once I've put them all in their categories, I'm going to sort of put them in order. So they are going to be ranked at the end of this. That's the plan anyway. Right, so first off, Iron Man. I'm going to put Iron Man, if I can grab it, there we go. I'm going to put Iron Man straight up as an A. Not quite perfect movie, but it's a really good one, I think. It's a really solid start. The casting is fantastic, and I love the backstory behind this movie, like how Jon Favreau, Robert Downey, Jeff Bridges, and Gwyneth Paltrow, they all were making the script up more or less on the spot for this movie. It's incredible, and it's fantastic how well the movie turned out, considering what a disaster it was behind the scenes. But it's a fantastic starting place for the MCU. I love this film. Next up is The Incredible Hulk, which I'm going to put straight down here as D. Yeah, this is the black sheep of the MCU. I think this film would genuinely be acknowledged a lot more, especially with Hulk appearing in more films. In the later phases, he doesn't just appear in the Avengers films. You know, he's appearing in Ragnarok, and, you know, he's going to be appearing in She-Hulk soon. But I think just because it's Edward Norton and not Mark Ruffalo is a reason why they choose to acknowledge it even less. I don't think this film is terrible. Unlike some people, I kind of like how the film starts, and I think the fighting with Abomination at the end is really fun. The whole middle section is pretty bad, though. Next up, we've got Iron Man 2. I'm not sure what category to put it in here, but I think Iron Man 2 probably does belong down here in the D category. It's not a great movie. I think this film is okay, I genuinely do, but I think the issues with this film is it's a bit of a 50-50 film. 50% of this film is a genuine Iron Man film, and the other 50% is an entirely set-up movie. And it really takes away from the film, unfortunately. And there's a really, really good film in here. The film looks great. And when it is focusing on the main plot, the main narrative, this film's really fun. And I do find enjoyment in it. I'm sort of talking myself into moving it up to a C, but I'm not going to. Next up, we've got Thor, the first movie. Thor is going to go down here as a D. I'm not a huge fan of Thor, which surprises a lot of people. I think, honestly, I used to like this film a lot, but the more I rewatch it, the more I don't like it. Kenneth Branagh, it's such a shame. He can be a good director, but I don't think he done a great job here. I think the humour's just not very good for the most part. Other than a couple lines, there's a couple bits. Another, I need a horse. There's some good moments in it. But I find Thor just not a very compelling character here. And I find that this film doesn't really... This film feels very forced. It feels like, you know, Marvel gone, we need to make a Thor movie to get him in the Avengers. And they've sort of forced this movie out. Next up, we have Captain America: The First Avenger. I'm going to put that up as a C. It's definitely a step up from the previous movies that we've had. And I do really, really enjoy this film. I think it's a lot of fun. I really like being in a different time period. You know, now the MCU, it's one of two films which are not set today. So it's interesting going back to the Second World War. I think this film has great side characters. Hayley Atwell's fantastic in it. Tommy Lee Jones is fantastic. Sebastian Stan is incredible. I love Sebastian Stan. And also Hugo Weaving as Red Skull, really good. I think Red Skull is actually a really underrated Marvel villain. But yeah, I like Captain America: First Avenger a lot. It's not great. It's got a lot of problems, but it's a solid movie. It's a big step up from the previous three films. Next, we got the Avengers, which I'm going to pop up here in the A section along with Iron Man. Again, I have issues with this movie, but it is so damn fun. I can very easily look over the issues with this one. This one is an interesting movie because it was carrying so much weight on its shoulders. I mean, now you look at it and it seems kind of small in comparison to Infinity War and Endgame. But putting yourself back in 2012 when these big crossover event movies like this, they were more or less non-existent. And to do it on the scale that this film was doing it had never been done before. So just to pull this film off was a task in itself, and it done it. And at the same time, it was a really fun movie. There are definitely pacing issues within the first two acts, but it's a really, really solid time still. And the last act is fantastic. The big battle's so much fun. Then we have Iron Man 3. Very, very controversial movie here. I'm going to put Iron Man 3 as a B. People who dislike this film, can I just say, most people who dislike this film, it's because of the Mandarin. I think I'm right in saying that, because other than the Mandarin, this is a really solid movie. So most people just didn't like the twist. But then I always like to ask these people, oh, so you're upset about the Mandarin? Have you read any of the Iron Man comics? No. So what's the big deal? This is a character you didn't know before now. So I always find that really interesting talking to people about this movie. Because the movie itself is great. The character development is so good. It's so weird that this come out. It done basically what The Dark Knight Rises tried to do, but it done it so much better. Not saying it's a better film than The Dark Knight Rises, but I'm saying it done what that film tried to do a lot better. It made our hero vulnerable. It took them away from their suits, their normal settings. It battered them and beat them down, and the whole film, it's about that hero coming back and going on a great journey, and it's done it so much better. Iron Man, Tony Stark, this is the best Tony Stark movie, I think. His character goes through so much, and it's so great. I actually like the villain twist. While I wasn't a big fan of the actual villain, Guy Pearce, he was a bit weak. The twist actually added to the movie, and it was good. It was done in a good way. I like it. Next up, we got Thor: The Dark World. Thor: The Dark World's going right down here on the bottom. I do not like Thor: The Dark World. It's not a complete mess and awful failure of a movie. It's not. I've seen plenty worse films. There are some good aspects still in this movie. I personally love it whenever Thor and Loki are on screen together. Those two scream charisma when they're on screen together, and it's fantastic to watch them, even in this movie, which isn't very good. The action sequences are great. They're big. They're grand. The end fight scene in London is really cool. And yeah, that's maybe about the most I've got for it. Other than that, again, it feels like the first Thor film for me, where it's like, oh, we got to make another Thor film. Let's just cram one out. Let's just get it out there. So, yeah, not a huge fan of this movie, but... Oh, sorry about that. But it's not terrible. It's not. Next up, we got Captain America: The Winter Soldier. This is the first one I'm going to put up in the S section. I think this is the closest Marvel's come to making a near perfect movie. This film is so good. Every character is great. There are no side characters in this film which feel forced. Every character is earned here. Everything they're doing, you understand their motivations. The plot is clever. It all makes sense. There aren't many plot holes. The suspense in this film, like there are characters where it looks like they're going to die multiple times and you genuinely believe it. The big twist in this, which impacts the whole world of these Avengers films, with S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra being inside S.H.I.E.L.D. And this felt like an Avengers film, just without the rest of the Avengers. This was grand. It was like, oh my god, there is big stuff happening here. The action sequences are so well shot. The best they've probably been shot throughout all of the MCU. Like, the choreography is fantastic. Also, the score. This is, even though Marvel have had some good scores before, surprisingly, Thor: The Dark World, actually, going back to that one, that's one of the few things I liked about that movie, was the score. But this one here takes it to the next level. Really good. This is the most grown-up, most intelligent Marvel film. But it is also probably the most entertaining, because there's just no filler in this film. This film works super well. It almost does what a modern action film would try to do, like a Bond movie. But it just does it so much better. And this film made Captain America cool. It really did. For those of you who were saying he's cool before, it's like, he wasn't that powerful in his first movie. He looked really dumb in the first Avengers film. Now he's got a cool suit. He's acting more like a superhero. He instantly drops in at the start of the movie, lands on a ship full of pirates who have taken S.H.I.E.L.D. agents hostage, and takes them all out. The guy finally feels like a proper superhero. Next up, we got Guardians of the Galaxy. I remember when this film was coming out, I mean, the trailers looked good, actually, but I just didn't believe it would be good. But who knew I'd be putting it in the S section? This film is great. James Gunn done a fantastic job with this movie. This is still my favourite James Gunn film. Why? Because he handles all of these characters so well. Why there are a couple weaker side characters in this movie, because this film is filled with characters. It's introducing so many. There are some characters who don't get amazing treatment. Unfortunately, the villain, Ronan the Accuser, Nebula. Well, thankfully her character gets treated a lot better in later installments. But in this film, not great. So some characters do suffer, but your main ones, which is obviously what you want here, especially a bunch of new characters, this is a new team, they get treated really well. You really understand why each one is doing what they're doing in this movie. You get all their motivations, and I love that they're kind of not good guys at times. Some of them are real arsey at times, and it's really interesting to watch. On top of that, this film is super well paced. There's no slow moments where I was bored. The music in it is fantastic. I love the soundtrack. And yeah, again, it's just a great film. Really, really creative as well, with stuff like the ships forming the shield at the end. Just really creative stuff going into this one. Okay, next up we got Avengers Age of Ultron. Which I'm going to put as a C. I know some people really like Age of Ultron, and I get it. It's an Avengers film. That's enough to just make it good. Because seeing these characters bounce off one another is really fun. And my favourite scenes in this are at the start, when they're at the party. Like, while Ultron, I suppose, is sort of coming alive. But Ultron's not even in it. It's just them at a party chilling. And that's my favourite bit with this movie. And I actually go onto YouTube a lot to watch out. I just love watching, Tony Stark walk about the party acting all cocky. Thor with his alcoholic drink. His little shots that he's doing. War Machine, of course, walking about trying to tell his cool stories. It's just a really fun thing to watch. I also quite like Ultron. I think James Spader is a fantastic actor, and he was perfect for the voice. A bit too jokey, but I think he looks really cool. Again, at the start of the film, he looked more intimidating when he was a broken up, like Iron Man droid sort of thing that the Avengers were using at the time of this movie. And I like the twins. I like Scarlet Witch a lot. I liked her a lot already in this movie, but now with WandaVision airing. Quicksilver, there was room for improvement. But I think this film just sort of fell a bit flat on its face. It sort of was a bit one-dimensional. It was a filler spot. The first Avengers movie was the first one. It was grand, and it teased that big Thanos story arc, which was going to start developing with the Infinity Stones. And I think they sort of just needed a filler Avengers film, unfortunately. And Age of Ultron was that film. And it's a shame, because there is some good stuff in here, but it's a pretty one-dimensional flat film, I think, at the end of the day. And then next up, we have AntMan. I'm a little bit torn with AntMan. I think I'm going to put him in the B section. I do really enjoy the first AntMan film. I think it's really innocent fun. And AntMan has some of the best side characters, I think. With Michael Pena's character, Evangeline Lilly. I've definitely butchered her first name there. I can never say it for some reason. And of course, the wonderful Michael Douglas is in this film. I think this is a really, really good origin story for a movie. I like the fact that, you know, Scott is not the nicest of guys. I mean, he is a really nice guy, but he's done some bad things. He's in prison at the start of this movie. And seeing him become a better person is really, really good. And it's really interesting to watch. But yeah, I find this movie really fun. I love Ant-Man's powers as well. Just seeing him shrink down is really good fun. This film suffers a lot from just not a very creative mind behind it. I think there's a lot left to the imagination with this movie. I think that they could have gone further with it. And I think the villain's quite weak. Captain America Civil War. I'm going to put this as an S. Yeah, I don't think this film's perfect. In fact, I'm almost tempted to put it down as an A. I have pacing issues with this film. And I still, deep down in the back of my head, wish this was an Avengers film. I wish they just pushed it back a couple of years so it wasn't so close to Age of Ultron. Captain America got a final, proper solo movie. And then this had been like another Avengers film. I personally would have preferred that. Wish they'd done it. But hey-ho, this is what we got. Taking the film for what it is, it's still very entertaining. Zemo, I really like Zemo, but I kind of find his villain a little bit pointless because when you really think about it and you really look at the plot, the characters would have still ended up where they did without Zemo. But hey, it's interesting seeing this almost political side to Marvel, which is something which other big franchises tried to do a lot. And it doesn't always work. One which tried to do it and it worked really well is Star Wars. I think the prequels tried to show the political side, which was expanded upon in the Clone Wars, and it works really well. And you sort of get why that Clone Wars happened, and here you get why Iron Man and Captain America ended up going off against each other. And it makes for a really interesting movie. So yeah, Civil War. Next up, we got Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange, I think I honestly want to put it as a B, but in recent years, I just never find myself wanting to go back to this movie. So I'm going to put it as a C. It's not terrible. I just don't think there's loads of rewatchability to it. And I'm really looking forward to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness because I feel like they're just going to go a lot further with this film. We were promised some weird, wacky stuff and we didn't really get much of it, if any at all. I feel like a lot of the side characters in this movie are just not that great. I like the Ancient One or something like that. Tilda Swinton's character, I thought she was really good. Obviously, Benedict Cumberbatch is fantastic in this movie. Goes without saying, the guy's a great actor. But everyone else in this movie, all the side characters, was very The villain, Caecilius, was really bad. And it's such a shame because Max Nicholson is so amazing. They completely wasted him. Dormammu, big floating head, whoop-de-doo. But his powers are so cool, Doctor Strange. I really want to see them go further with it. There's some good action sequences in this movie. I love the bit where he's fighting Caecilius and 3 other people and they're like running down some hallways and there's some mirror door bits. But yeah, I think they played it a bit safe with this movie because it was the origin. And I think the next Doctor Strange movie is going to be a lot better. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, I'm also going to put in the C section. This was actually, alongside Age of Ultron, maybe the most disappointed I'd ever been in a Marvel film. Because Age of Ultron and Guardians 2 was so hyped up. Like, I was so ready to see these movies. And unfortunately, they didn't deliver. Guardians 2 had a lot of good things about it. I actually like the villain a lot. This is when Marvel's villain problem, because they were really having a villain problem. As a lot of us remember, at this point, Marvel were always getting slagged off for their villains. It was kind of like a go-to thing. If you want to criticise a Marvel film, if you want to be one of those people, go for their villains, because at this point, it was quite easy to do it. But here, the villains finally start to get better. Ego, being played by Kurt Russell, was really good. I love his relationship with Star-Lord. Really good. The music, of course, was great, again, in this movie. The soundtrack, they somehow upped the first one. I'm not sure how they done it, but they did. James Gunn put together an awesome mix, Volume 2. And the film looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. The film looks so good. And a lot of the side characters got treated a lot better in this movie than they did in the first one. Nebula, a lot better. And what was his name? I can't think of his name. The blue guy played by Michael. I can't think of his actual name now in real life. The blue Yondu. That's it. He was so much better in this movie. Like, I liked him in the first movie, but he didn't really do much. In this film, so good, so good. I found Rocket actually a little bit annoying in this one. I've got to say, I thought he was actually just being an arse for the sake of it. And I didn't feel like his Hartwell moment where he comes back together with the rest of the Guardians at the end was as fleshed out as it could have been. I found Drax as well, while he is really funny, and he's definitely the comedic relief to these movies. I actually found his comedy a little bit over the top sometimes. I know some people are really not going to agree with that. Some people find him hilarious. I just found him a little bit too much at times in this film. And again, the narrative of this film, I thought, just was a bit plain. They could have done more with it. Okay, next up, we got SpiderMan Homecoming. I'm going to put SpiderMan Homecoming as an A. I really do enjoy this movie. Which is surprising because a lot of people really hate this new take on Spider-Man. And I sort of get it. I do. I like Spider-Man swinging around New York and stuff. But the thing is, we had 5 films of that. We finally got him in the MCU. Let's see him expand a bit. So I don't really think it's a huge problem. I do have a bit of a problem with the overuse of CGI with his character in his films. Like, the webs and stuff look so fake. And then you watch, like, the Tobey Maguire ones and the webs look so much better. But, sorry to the other Spider-Man fans, because they're really not going to like what I'm about to say here. But I think Tom Holland is the best version of Spider-Man we've had live action-wise. I think he's so good at playing this character. He's perfect for it. He looks and sounds and acts like the Spider-Man in the comics, unlike the previous 2 live-action adaptations, in my opinion. This film has great side characters as well. I love the humour in these films. I think it's fantastic. I love, like, the teachers and stuff. It has a great villain, a really great villain with Vulture, Michael Keaton. And I really like the story. The story does feel classic-y Spider-Man. I really do enjoy it. There's obviously a lot of Iron Man in this movie, which some people don't like. Which I can sort of get with the next Spider-Man film, which we'll talk about in a bit. But this one, it's like, why not? We've had 5 films of Spider-Man completely isolate on his own because Sony had all the rights. Now we can mix him. Why not mix him up with Iron Man? You know, why not? He's like his mentor in Civil War. Why not carry that over? So, yeah, I actually really like that Iron Man having a big presence in this one. Okay, next up we got Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok is going straight to an S. I love this movie. I love this movie. Taika Waititi is an incredible director. He took a very stale character and made him great. Because even Thor, outside of his 2 very bleh films, was one of the weakest Avengers. There was little to no character development for him in both Avengers movies that have come so far. Especially the second one. The second one, he disappears for half it and goes and sits in a hot tub and just dreams about stars and stuff. It's terrible. So it's great here to see this character really get pushed to the limits. We see him develop. We get to see him and his brother's relationship grow more. This film's just so great. The humour is amazing. Amazing. I love the pacing. The look of this film as well. Stunning. Yeah. I truly love this movie. Taika is the best director Marvel have. And I hope they keep using him. Not just for Thor movies. While I'm so excited for Love and Thunder, I want to see Taika do other Marvel films. I want to see Taika do everything. The man's so amazing. I absolutely love his filmography now. Next up we have Black Panther. R.I.P. to Mr. Chadwick Boseman. Fantastic actor. The film itself, I'm going to put as a B. Yeah, this film is a really interesting one. It actually reminds me of Wonder Woman a lot, the first one. Let me explain why. Because that film done the exact same thing for me, where the first 2 acts of this movie are so good. I love it. The character development and stuff, and just getting to know Wakanda, this new world. Same as Wonder Woman. I just loved getting to know, getting introduced to her character, seeing her come into our world, and how she reacted to the First World War. I love that kind of stuff. It's really good. Unfortunately, both of these films didn't really know how to end properly, I guess. I don't know. I mean, Wonder Woman, you know, we don't want to talk about that. This is Marvel video. But that one was a CGI mess when they brought in big villain out of nowhere. This one, of course, he had to face Killmonger. Black Panther had to face Killmonger. Fortunately, I don't think they've done it in the best way. They had this huge CGI battle, which honestly just didn't look good at all. And I do believe they took a lot of the special effects artists off this film early to start work on Infinity War. So that's where a big problem probably lies. And yeah, I just don't think the fight looked very good at all. It didn't feel very captivating. I remember just tuning out a couple times. And it is such a shame because the film was going so well and then the last act kind of bottled it. Avengers Infinity War is going right up here at the top. I love Infinity War. I think it's a really, really great movie. Do I think it's one of their best? Yes, it's one of their best, but it's probably of the lower... I don't know. We'll talk about that in a minute when I actually rank them properly. I really do love Infinity War, though. I think it, again, it's the next step up from the first Avengers film. Where the first Avengers film was like bringing them together for the first time. Age of Ultron's that awkward brother in the middle that everyone kind of forgets. And then this one was like, okay, now we're going to add a bunch more characters. And it had all that to juggle. It also had to start wrapping up this story. It had a lot to do, and for that I respect it. AntMan and the Wasp is going to go down here as a D, unfortunately. I've actually rewatched AntMan and the Wasp quite a few times just because it's always on TV. And yeah, this film has no creative flair to it. It's very bland. What carries this film is just the characters, unfortunately, and the actors. They're all really trying and really doing a great job. There's some funny, light-hearted moments to it. And I don't think this movie's bad. I really don't think it's a bad movie. It's very innocent. It's got charm to it. But it is just very middle of the road. There's not much going on here. And it really does feel like a filler spot. Next up, we've got Captain Marvel, and that's also going as a D because, you know, I must be a sexist. No, I love Brie Larson. I think she's a fantastic actress. I really do. And I'm really excited that she's playing Captain Marvel, and I really can't wait to see more from her as Captain Marvel because I do love her, and I want to love this character. But her character is just, frankly, not very likeable in this movie. She's just not. And all of the side characters more or less suck. They're just not very nice. This film keeps tripping up over itself as well. It keeps making so many mistakes. It's like it's forgotten what's happened already in the MCU. I just think this is a bad movie. I don't think that any intelligence really went into writing this film. It feels very messy, very choppy, and it's, yeah, quite frankly, I think this is a pretty bad film. Next up, we have Avengers Endgame, which is going straight to the top. This film was bloody amazing. This film was so good. Yeah, Endgame. It just wrapped everything up perfectly. It really did. I felt every emotion humanly possible watching this film. Then we have Spider-Man Far From Home, which I'm going to put as a B. Now, yeah, I'm going to stick with a B. I find this movie really fun for the most part, and I love Mysterio, let me say that. Jake Gyllenhaal is one of my favourite actors. I love Mysterio, he's great. But I'll say this, the overuse of Iron Man stuff again, not as big of a fan of it in this one. It doesn't bother me as much as it bothers some people, but I wish it wasn't so forced in this one. Also, the final act, again, the final battle, really does become a bit of a mess again. There's a lot of stuff that happens there which is very over the top and silly. Right, let me try and put these in an order now. So, this is really hard for me because Winter Soldier and Endgame are so close. And I think Winter Soldier is the better film, like made-wise. I think in terms of technical aspects. But I'm going to put Endgame above it just because it wraps everything up so perfectly. It's so rewatchable and it's got so many great characters in it. I'm going to keep Guardians where it is. I genuinely feel like Guardians would be my next pick of the S section. Then I'm going to go Thor Ragnarok. Taika's flair to this film is so incredible. I just absolutely love it. Which one do I go next? I'm really struggling out of these two. Which one I prefer, Infinity War or Civil War? I think I will go Infinity War because of rewatchability. Okay, now into the A section. I am going to completely keep that as it is, actually. Yeah, I'm really tempted to switch Iron Man and the Avengers around, but I think I'm going to keep it as it is, because the Avengers had so much on its plate, it had so much to do, and the final act of it is super fun. And then, yeah, I'm going to keep Iron Man and SpiderMan as they are. Okay, next section. I am going to... I do have a letterbox ranking of this, so I could have just copied my letterbox ranking. You watch, this will probably be different to my letterbox ranking, and then I'm going to really question myself. This is quite a hard row to do, actually. I think I'm going to say Iron Man 3 is my favourite from this row. Yeah, I'm going to keep that there. I'm going to put Black Panther. I'm going to go Far From Home and then Ant-Man. Okay, next row. I'm going to put... this is tricky as well. The last row is quite easy. I'm glancing at the last row and I think I'll be able to do that easy. But this row is tricky. I think I'm going to go... Doctor Strange. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Avengers Age of Ultron. And then the first Avenger. Okay, the bottom row, I'm going to go Ant-Man and the Wasp first. I'm going to leave Iron Man 2 there. In fact, I'm going to leave the row as it is now. Yep. So I would say Thor, Incredible Hulk, Thor the Dark World, and yes, my least favourite Marvel film is Captain Marvel. But yes, there we go. There is my MCU tier list video. It's a ranking of all the movies as well there. I think I'm happy with the list. I'll watch this back and be like, I should have swapped those around. It is just my opinion, guys, as always. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed it as always. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like the video, leave a message, and I'll see you all next time for another video. Bye-bye.